right.
Ready? And we're on. Hello everybody, hi doctors. I'm going to go over about a 10-minute video on how to use the CT machine. This is the Planmeca Pro Max Mid. It's fantastic. I did the research myself on choosing this, and Dr. Hearn and Dr. Blitz agreed this is the best choice. We got this about year and a half ago. It's summer of 2018 right now. This is the main station here in Seekonk, and to get it going, just log in. Oh, wrong password. Sure. Once you log in here, once the screen is through the initial password, you can open Romexis, which is the Planmeca software, on any of the workstations in the building, okay, as long as this is logged in. Now when this window pops up, all you have to do is X out of it. None of this matters. Just go to the X and get out of it, okay? All right, so let's say the assistants already took a scan, and come in here real quick for a minute. If you need to turn this machine on, take this button. There's a button. Here's the emergency button, but under here, there's a green button. That's how you turn the machine on, okay, and off. All right. So let's go back to the software. Also, there are instructions. These are the names and the dates of people who've had CTs, if you want to check that. Also, there's an instruction sheet. There's some instruction sheets on how to do things up in the cupboard, okay, how to make adjustments. And I've written cheat notes, okay, to get the right dimensions of the head so you don't get too little or too big, okay? Ortho settings are different than implant settings. Okay, everything's up here. Okay, let's open it up. Just double click on Romexis. Now I need to let you know, this is not the updated version of the software, so it's kind of buggy. Sometimes it crashes, and you just have to, if it crashes and if something goes wrong, just close all the way out of it, exit, and just start over again. Okay, you have to go all the way back and let it start, and then you'll get what you want the second time. Okay, let's say this patient here. Oh, let's talk about entering a patient name. You can type in their first name or their last name, and then a list will come up. First and last name. It's very easy. If you're in Westport, right now, you can't access the images, but you could access the names and the dates, at least. So you can see if they actually made it in to Seekonk. So, we'll pick this patient. There's 2D images, which is the pano. There's 3D images, which is the CT. I'm mainly interested in the CT because you can look at the pano from this as well. So you go in here and then you put your arrow on whatever that is. Pick your date. This patient only has one. Sometimes there's several. So double click on here. All right. So I've already done, I'm gonna erase that and redo it, but let's talk about what's up here. This is a drop-down menu. This is, okay, first of all, here's the patient. That's their name. And here's the date. That's today's date. It appears, 6/19. No, that's June 19. Okay, that was a month ago. So this was done a month ago. This drop-down menu, the main thing you want is implants. That's the most important. I hardly ever look at the other ones, but we'll go back and look at some of the other ones later. Okay, sometimes this thing pops out, it just gets in the way. Just go onto a black space, boom, it'll disappear. If you go too far over here, all these windows start flying out. You don't need it, just get rid of it. Okay. Okay. Also, I need to minimize this. See how there's a little gray box around this little implant? That you don't need to go there yet. All right, so let's talk about what we got here. Okay, that thing's popping up again. Okay, a lot of times, okay, first thing you want to look at is the pano. Also, if say you want to just look at the piano, I would go to this box right here. That enlarges it, shrinks it, enlarges it. Every window has that little shrink or enlarge thing. And that little wrench is if you want to fix something. You could learn how to play with little games with the different things. I never mess with that on the piano, but anyway. This line matters, that blue line and these red lines. What that does, you scroll, see this? That moves this blue line up and down. So when the blue line is on the upper arch of the piano, that's a different vertical section. You're looking at it anterio-ventrally or whatever. And you can play with this. You can go to the lower jaw and then the upper jaw. Also, this here moves the red. So it tells you if you're left or right. Okay, so let's say I wanted to look at the bone level here to see if I have enough room to put a little implant, which I do. I can fit a 5x5 implant in that little slot. Now, each section represents one of these red lines. In a different, if you were to take the jaw and face it this way versus this way. Okay, you could make these lines crunch together or spread them wider apart. You do that here with the little crescent wrench. Click on that and see how it makes the lines wider or thinner. You'll actually use that every time. So let's go thin. Let's put the lines together. Go to done. And now the sections are narrower. I'm going to erase this. That's a little trash can, by the way. So check this. Put that in the trash can. Yes, I want to delete that. So that's number 19. And the nerve. Can't see the nerve really well. Let's see if we can make it better. All right, see this green line here on this section of the piano? If you go to the little hand, you can change the curvature. Watch how the piano changes when I move these dots around. It takes it out of focus. A lot of times right after a scan is done, everything's out of focus. It's all weird and you can't really see anything. But if you bring these dots, if you help the computer, it will help you. So bring the dots over the bone at the level you need. Just bring it in and see, and everything comes into focus. The nerve, here's the nerve. Great. Now we can see the nerve right here. Yep. All right. So I got plenty of room. Also, the nerve is, you see a little dot here? That's the inferior alveolar nerve. And I'll show you later how to outline that. Okay. But for now, let's move this over to where number 19 is going to be. That's going to end up, because that's not a very big space to put an implant, but it will work. This is a file cabinet right over here, an implant catalog. Now, this is a special implant. An Osteoready is not going to fit in there. So I'm going to do a Bicon, because Bicon makes extra short 5x5 implants, which matches what we have in the office. We have a 3i 5x5, but this, because we have the older software, it's not updated with all of the newer implants, so I have to borrow from a different company. And so I'll just mimic the 5x5. I'll add this short implant to that plan. Boom. Now, you can see this yellow square floating around. Dump it where you think you're going to want it, which is here, and double click. Boom. Now I got an implant there. Don't worry about that. See, now that implant's pretty much where I want it. If I needed it angled, I would grab onto this dot and kind of spin it around. If you want to move the whole implant, put it in between the dots, and you can move the whole implant around. Okay, with my fingers on the button on the mouse. Okay, now it's tilting, so I'm going to grab the bottom one and untilt it. There you go. Now, to see, okay, so it's centered on the arch here in that angle, in this angle, so you got 3 dimensions. Now here's a better thing, here's the cool thing. it spins around. If you go to this implant and click it, you get a new view. And if you turn this thing, you'll get a circular view of the bone all the way around the implant, just to make sure you're not into a nerve or bumping up against a tooth next to it. See how the bone is spinning around the implant? All right, so we got plenty of bone, and you want to have about 1.5 millimeters to 2 millimeters on either side of the implant, because the bone will dehiss. It'll be too weak. So you need some thickness on both sides of the implant to make it worth it. See these numbers? Yep. That stands for Hounsfield units. Hounsfield units. And that tells you how dense the bone is. So this is a good opportunity to put your cursor arrow right through the middle of the implant to see how dense the bone is where you're going to be working, and go around the implant. Now this is really dense bone because it's in the 600s. Yep. There's 4 kinds of bones, type 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 is the thinnest, most cancellous, softest bone. It's almost worthless. Type 3 is okay. Type 2 is pretty good. Type 1 is really thick. This is type 1 because it's above 400. So just remember these numbers. You might want to write it down. Type 1 bone is 400 and above. Type 3 is 3 to 400. Type 2 is 2 to 300. And type...
You said type
Oh,
3.
I got it backwards.
Yeah.
I got it backwards. Yeah. Okay. Type 1 is 400 and above. Type 2 is 3 to 400. Type 3 is 2 to 300. Type 4, the poor bone, is 0 to 100. Okay? Alright, so that implant's going to work. And if you want to just kind of see how it looks, maximize the view, and you can spin this skeleton around. This is a good scan. You got the full jaw on the lower, you got the full jaw on the upper. You don't need the whole head, you just need at least up to about the orbit. That way you can really see what's going on. That looks great. You could spin it from the back. You can tilt it. It's like a video game. Now, there's different ways you could look at this. And the way you do that is go to the wrench, crescent wrench, drop it down, and start playing with different options of how it looks. And you could make, this is a helpful one, which is the X-ray view, but you have to adjust it, and you leave it there, and you go to, see where it says 3D rendering? You could adjust the brightness. I like to take it down about half of what it starts out with, like about there. And then you can kind of see all the way through it. It's like glass. It's like a glass jaw. You can kind of see where you're at, everything relative to itself. Okay? Another thing I like to do, after I place an implant in, I want to see if I make sure I had it within the bone, so I go to surface. If you placed your implant, if you placed your implant and you poked through the bone, you gotta go. Okay.